the city of Los Angeles, 4,752 square miles of the most vibrant city on earth. It's home to palm trees, traffic, and almost 10 million people. What you probably didn't know is Los Angeles is also home to 48,000 people without a home. 60% male, 32% female, and 8% male and female children. Of all of those homeless, a growing 47% are African American.
In Vaikra Bihar 25:34-35, it states, "If your brother becomes impoverished and his hand assets become shaky among you, you must support him." Unfortunately, not many of us actually heed these words today. However, there are a certain few who do, and we have applied this text to their actions, or rather, their actions to this text. An example is LA Family Housing, a family homeless shelter whose mission statement is to help families transition out of homelessness and poverty through a continuum of housing enriched with supportive services. This organization has clearly seen impoverished brothers in addition to entire impoverished families out on the streets and has taken definitive action to support them when their assets have become shaky. We sat down with Mike, director of LA Family Housing, to hear more about the work they do to support the impoverished.
Hey, I'm Mike. How are you? Welcome to LA Family Housing. Nice to meet you. So, we're a transitional living center. We take homeless people, and we bring them in, and we give them room and board. We feed them every day, and they have caseworkers and employment workers. And hopefully, within 2 years, we get them back out into the system and back out on the streets and be productive adults.
What programs do you offer?
There's lots of programs. I'm not the caseworker. I run the kitchen. There's lots of caseworkers here. They have job training programs. I know that they do a lot of employment searching, and they do classes daily on motivation and how to properly interview, and to give them skills.
No?
Hold on a minute. You're interrupting me. Okay, what else? You can cut that, right? You're gonna cut that part? As he's looking at me, he's like, you're cutting all this, right?
It's okay. We can cut, yeah.
So anyway, so the challenges that we have here is we have all kinds of patients. We have mentally ill, physically ill. We have needs patients. We have people that are just down and out homeless. We have people that have been abused. We have all the realms of what causes homelessness. So it's a great program. There's a lot of success stories here. A lot of great people.
So, how long have you been here?
March 3rd will be 1 year.
Really?
Yeah.
How did you end up here?
Well, actually, the social workers at the hospital got me here when I built up. Got out of the hospital.
What were you in the hospital for?
I had a stroke and it affected my balance. I have no balance.
Really?
Yeah. I can get up and try to walk to that table, but it won't be successful.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Wow. So that was last year when you had the stroke?
Yeah.
Wow. Are you getting medicated for it? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This might be a touchy subject, but would you consider yourself like
Yes. Transition. I've learned a lot since I've been.
yeah.
And the people who work here are very nice. Most of them. Yeah, most of them.
Where were you before you were here?
Grant's Fast Working.
Where were you born?
I was born in Boise, Idaho.
Really? How did you end up here?
Well, my mom and dad were separated and divorced when I was 8. And mom decided she had some relatives that lived in Arizona. So we moved down there. And after a while, it was about 5.5 years. Then my dad said, I want you to move back over here with us. My mom didn't say. She said, that's okay. Go ahead, do it. She wanted a party life. She wasn't into having her kids around.
So, before you were here, did you consider yourself homeless?
Before I was here, no. I didn't consider it. Just from the hospital to here, then I realized, oh man, I'm a homeless person.
Yeah.
That took me a while to get around.
Yeah. How was that like the realization that was your situation? How was that?
Starbucks. Where's Tom on
It's
that?
getting to the point where I'm not, just stuck on that one thing anymore. I'm homeless, but I have to do these other things.
Yeah. How are you?
So,
How are you trying to get yourself back up?
they have classes here, and we have meetings with medical doctors and psychiatrists, and it's all paid for.
In Deuteronomy 15:7-8, it states, If there be a poor man among you, you shall open your hands wide to him, and shall surely lend him to that which is sufficient for his need, that which is lacking to him. After reviewing the work done by LA Family Housing, it is clear that they are not only adhering to the words of Vayikra Bihar 25:34-35, but that their actions reflect the aforementioned Deuteronomy text as well. Not only have they supported impoverished brothers, they have opened their hands and heart to the homeless of Los Angeles and lent them a home and food sufficient to their need. Whatever was lacking to the homeless of Los Angeles, LA Family Housing provided for them, just like it says in the text.
So Jess, thanks for coming to the interview. Would you mind telling us a little bit who you are and what you do?
Okay, so I'm Jessica Fury, and I'm a clinical social worker. So I've worked a lot with families who are below the poverty line and need assistance, such as with food stamps and government child care.
So, would you care to share your thoughts on being below the poverty line and homelessness?
Well, it's actually really easy for families to be below the poverty line, especially in terms of education. It's known that people who don't have a high school education, their monthly income, and the statistics is much less. As someone who has not graduated high school, their monthly income may be around like $400, where someone who's graduated high school, the median monthly income may be about $700. So there's a huge discrepancy between the amount of money that someone makes who has a high school education versus if they don't. So someone who doesn't have one is much more likely to be under the poverty line and possibly be homeless than someone who has a high school education.
So why do you think these kids aren't able to complete high school graduation in the first place?
Yeah, well, usually because they are in environments where maybe their families are struggling, so it's possible that they may not be able to finish school because they need to work for their families, or they may live in, abusive homes where a lot of them will choose to leave. Sometimes people will come out as gay or lesbian and their families, won't be accepting, so they'll kick them out of the house. So a lot of times, that's how teenagers and kids, will be homeless. So there's a lot of reasons. Also, if they come from a one-parent family and there's no one home, to really monitor what's going on, they're much more likely to start skipping school. And then once they get more behind, then they feel like they can't catch up and it's not worth it for them. So, it's really, really easy actually to not end up finishing school. So, do you want me to tell you a little bit about what I think would be helpful to decrease the amount of homelessness?
Sure.
Okay, So as we were talking before about wages and money, I think a big thing is minimum wage. So minimum wage, the federal rate for minimum wage is $7.40 an hour. So if someone worked a 40-hour week and worked 50 weeks a year, that would get them about $14,000 a year. So in California, the poverty line for a family of 4 is $20,000. So if you have one earner in that family, they are already going to be $6,000 below the poverty line. And the poverty line means you really can't meet any basic needs or necessities. So even, if you have a child and a parent, then the poverty line is like $13,000. So you're only $1,000 above. So already, what we say is a minimum wage will not give somebody an adequate lifestyle. It's not even possible. So I think the first thing that we need to do would be to raise minimum wage to a higher wage. Something else is like mental illness is a really big cause of homelessness. A lot of times people on the streets will see people who are, somewhat delusional or talking to other people. Sometimes these are, veterans who have served in the war and they may have PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. And so I think that, one thing that would also be really helpful would be to have, more services that are very low fee, so that when people start, having struggles, that they can go see a therapist and, work with what's going on before it gets too severe. And also what they've started to do, which I think is really important, is to have more counseling for, the people who are, in the Army, and more exit counseling. And also even just talking about the fact that post-traumatic stress, does happen and it's quite common, then there's less of a stigma for people to go get help and go to therapy. So I think that's something that would also be really helpful. Okay. I think something else that I think would be really important is to increase the amount of affordable housing, low-income housing. Because a lot of times people who are homeless are actually still working, they're still in the workforce. But if someone, maybe if they get laid off or someone else in their family gets laid off, they really can't afford to pay their rent. So having more low-income housing, would be able to keep some people off the streets and keep them, in their houses while they're, struggling through keeping a job or transitioning or, whatever else is happening.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Many of you might be asking yourselves, what can we do to fix this problem? Now, there's no one answer, but based on our study of Tzedakah principles, there is a simple solution for everybody: to get involved at a local shelter, such as LA Family Housing, for example. And if not there, heed the advice of Deuteronomy 15:7-8, and simply donate to charity. You could also go to work at Sova, where they designate certain foods and materials in demand, and donate specifically those, thereby fulfilling the terms of lending what is sufficient for someone's need. Now, as far as actual Los Angeles legislation concerning the homeless, there's not much that we can recommend. We can, however, commend lawmakers who ruled a previous law outlawing the homeless from sleeping on the street unconstitutional. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals overturned a law in 2006 that dictated the arrest of anyone found sleeping on the street. For now, we can only hope for further rulings like this one, and strive as individuals to contribute our time and effort to organizations already combating the issue.